Greetings, YouTube. In the last 30 years of working in manufacturing, a number of different times I have either been an inspector or done things that required me to take accurate measurements and to be able to work within parameters according to blueprints and specs and things like that. And some things were generous, plus or minus a quarter inch, or for some things there might be a 16th of an inch. And then I've done things that were incredibly tight, plus or minus 5/1000ths of an inch. So I've had an opportunity to use all kinds of different measuring instruments, from measuring tapes up through coordinate measuring machines. And I get used to dealing with criteria, talking to engineers and looking at specs and understanding that there are tolerances. There's a knife company out there called Zero Tolerance, the implication being that, of course, they have zero tolerance to defects, which is a bit of a line of bull, but I guess it sells knives. But over that time, I've come to realize that some people seem to apply that same concept, that there are acceptable parameters to things outside what I consider appropriate things to fall into that category. Now, if you're measuring fit and finish on a knife, okay, parameters like that is fine. But if you're setting parameters like that, say, on human rights, well, that's something different. Now, here on YouTube, I frequently am discussing, or on the internet in general, I'm frequently discussing human rights, civil liberties, things like that. And as most people who are familiar with my channel are aware, I'm a very progressive individual and believe in the maximum number of rights that we can possibly have until we bump into the rights of another person. That means I rub up against socially conservative people on a regular basis. And very rarely do we ever agree on anything. I think that socially conservative worldviews at best stand still, and in America they are often attempts to regressively push us back into the past, to not only prevent further progress to human rights, but to push us back into the past where there were fewer human rights. And I consider that to be unethical and immoral. Thankfully, the Constitution, very frequently, also illegal. And one of the things that pops up on a regular basis is that people seem to have this dismissive attitude about minority groups. Well, it's just them. It's, we don't have to pay attention to that problem. It's just them. So I have a question for the socially conservative people here on the internet. Whoever see this video. How small does the population of people have to be before you could ignore their human rights? 10%, 5%, 1%? At what point can you comfortably turn a blind eye to them and just ignore them and decide that they are not worthy of civil liberties and human rights? This isn't rhetorical. I am not throwing out here a philosophical pondering. I want to know. Because socially conservative people have time and again decided that some groups are not worthy of human rights, civil liberties. So tell me, what percentage is your comfort zone? Because my comfort zone is zero tolerance. There is no population small enough that they are not deserving of human rights. Not even if it's one person out of the population of 7 billion. They are worthy of civil liberties and human rights. Equal treatment under the law. Always. That it is part of our humanity to make sure that if we see wrong in the world, we can do what we can to mitigate that wrong. That if we turn a blind eye to evil, we foster that evil, we help that evil further its goals. So if it's just from speaking out here on a video and saying, no, I will not tolerate intolerance. No, I will not allow people to dismiss a minority population because it's small. I'll pick up the phone when I think someone's being abused. I'll step up and say, hey, what's going on here? I'll do that because that's my job as a member of humanity. It's all of our jobs. We are one family. One. We are all brothers and sisters, every single last one of us, and even if we don't like each other, we are still in that same family. I don't have to like everyone in my family, but I do have to treat them with respect. I do have to treat them with human rights and civil liberties. I do have to make sure that they have those things defended. That is what we have to do, because we either learn to live together or we die apart. And I prefer the former to the latter. We can get much further in life together than we can alone. So, to reiterate my point, tell me, socially conservative people of the internet, how small does a population have to be until you're comfortable with ignoring their human rights?